Welcome to Time 414. Today we're going to talk about the almighty cell phone. Okay. Whew. So many things with the cell phones. And here's the deal. We're going to start off. I'm just going to start off and let you know there is not one universal rule about cell phones that will work for everybody, except maybe to have a cell phone contract. So the big question of when should kids be allowed to have cell phones? That depends on your kid. I have 4 children, okay? So we've gone through teenage years with 4 children. And I can tell you there was not one age that worked for one that would work for the other. And we started out with limited phones. I did really like that. We started them out with track phones on the older track phones. Now even their cheapest models have browser capabilities, and back then they didn't. So I don't know if you can still get one of the older models that just makes phone calls. That was great. So I can tell you in our house, when we were looking at when to get cell phones for the kids, there was also the question of the landline, because we had a landline in the house and those got so outrageously expensive. So we bought one basic track phone and it was the house phone. So it was a cell phone. And I know there were times that we sent that away with the kids, so they had a way to call us, but it wasn't like their cell phone. And again, it was the basic one. They could not get online with it. It made phone calls and it could text, and that was all it could do. And man, I like those. That makes this question so much easier. But again, it's hard to find those now. So you're going to have to look at your life and see how much is your kid away from you where you would like them to have a phone. It is much easier if they have one. And then, maybe start out with something like that. Starting out with the track for us, even when they like meeting my kids, not the phones, got to have phones that had more capabilities, I still liked the track phone model to start off because it is limited. And the parental controls can be great, but that takes a lot of work to set up, a lot of maintenance to look and make sure your kid isn't finding a way around the parental controls, because that happens. They're going to spend more time on it than you, and if there's a workaround, they're going to find it. I had a friend who had a limit on their teenager's phone, and their teenager found out that if they powered off the phone and then powered it back on, they could send another text really quick while the phone was loading, and it would go through even if they had already reached their limit. On a track phone, it wouldn't do that because you've only paid for so much, so they're only going to give you so much. It's not a control where there's a gate, for it to go. It's you're just out on a track phone. So I did like that myself. So then we went from those to smartphones. Yep, we had to make that call. And the biggest thing was the phone contract. Each kid had to fill out the phone contract. We went over the rules. I had done some research. I had just done a Google search on phone contracts with kids and looked through them. I made our own, but I picked things I liked from this one, things I liked from this one. And some of the big takeaways, I think it had, 10 to 15 rules on it, but the biggest takeaways were that I could take the phone away whenever I wanted. And they had to be okay with that. They had to sign their name to that. And I reminded them of that regularly, that was the contract. It is their phone to use, but they do not own it and they did not pay for it. So I could take it back whenever I wanted. I had the right to go through the phone at any time because, again, I'm the parent. And later on, as they got older and had some of their own money, they wanted to buy their own phones. And I said, fine, but the phone contract is still in play. Until you are 18, I still have the right to go through your phone at any time. Just like I have the right to go through your room, the right to go through, I don't take advantage of that fact. It would only be if there was a big cause for concern. So, other things on there, they weren't allowed to take pictures of other people without their consent. That got a little bit messy with siblings because, you can bet they wanted to take pictures of their siblings doing funny things. And I have pictures of my brother that are embarrassing that I hold over his head still that were taken, on a 110 millimeter camera and then a 35 millimeter camera. So some of that's going to happen, but they can't post it without their permission. And when they did have it on their phones and the sibling knew it was taken and they came and showed me, they did have to delete it because they signed their name to the agreement that they would not take the pictures without other people's consent. and definitely not posting it anywhere and not texting it to friends or anything like that. So then when we get down to the nitty gritty, you've hopefully looked at some of the studies of the effects of social media on teenagers. Those are so true. And you read those and you get concerned about your kid. But here's a very important thing to understand. Not all teenagers are interested in social media. There's a lot of them that aren't. I have one that still has one social media, and that was only to impress a person they were interested in dating. I am sorry. I'm watching my camera do the autofocus in and out, and I really have no idea, so I apologize, and I'll try to minimize this in editing, but wow, I don't know what it's doing. It's kind of freaking out. Hope nobody gets seasick watching this. Anyway, I'll stay closer to the camera. Whoa, that made it worse. Okay. Hopefully this works. Again, I apologize for the camera zooming in and out. Hopefully me coming closer will help it out here a little bit. But anyway, yeah, I had one teenager that was sneaking on social media that they were specifically told not to have. And they got on the dark side of that social media and they got their phone taken away. Then they snuck and took it back and left the case so that when I glanced in there to check, it looked like the phone was still there. And that teenager got in really, really big trouble. Then I dismantled the phone, and yeah, and they were without a phone for a very, very long time, and they lost some other privileges too. So that went beyond the phone contract. That went to trust. And that was our discussion with this teenager. Trust is like with a teenager, and I've told them all this, and I actually heard this analogy. I didn't make it up myself, but trust is like a rope. Like there's a rope tied to the teenager and I'm holding it. And the more I trust them, the more I let that rope go, and the farther they can go and the more freedom they have. But if they break that trust, I'm pulling them back in. And the things that happened with that particular teenager with the phone and then with stealing it back, that teenager came right back in because I lost all trust with that teenager. But here's the key with that. A friend of mine is a therapist that works with teenagers, and we've talked before about cell phones and social media and how much of the teenager's identity is wrapped up in that. And the parents that take the phone away and take away the social media just for control to try to get what they want, and it's devastating to the teenager because they took away a part of their identity and such a big part of their day-to-day. I mean, imagine somebody took away your phone and what a loss that would feel like to you. And it would feel even more so to your teenager who has less in their life to take up their time and their attention, and who was raised seeing what a big part of their world the phone is. If you're around my age, you did not grow up with your parents holding onto a cell phone. Our kids did. It's always been a part of life. So taking it away without proper discussion and proper other things in their life can be truly devastating. And we act like this is a new phenomenon, but it's really not. My stepdad was in a band in the 1960s. And one of the boys in their band, he was doing bad in school. His grades were dropping. And his parents told him, made him quit the band, right? His parents doesn't sound like they were very nice. And the boy committed suicide because the band to him was the only good thing he had in his life, and it got taken away. And now that's extreme, but we know things like that happen, and they still happen today. And a teenager can feel like that with their phone and their social media if that's where they feel their world is, and we just take it away. I can tell you with my teenager, that's where they felt their world was. So when it was taken away, we took it away with a lot of talk, a lot of discussion, a lot of things laid out on how to get it back, but on how to build their world up differently, because they had gotten sucked into some of the darker side of the internet. And we talked about how that wasn't okay, how that made them feel. And we talked about addiction, and we talked about all of the things. And then we tried a variety of other things, and they were mad at me. They were mad at me for a while. And I can tell you, they're not mad at me now. And they understand now. And they still are somebody who is more on social media because it does appeal more to certain types of personalities. And that's okay when they learn to handle it well. And I can tell you, we started out I thought, doing the right things with that child in social media. And it escalates fast. But when it was taken away, again, it wasn't just taken away and they were sent to their room with nothing to do but sit there with their thoughts. And there was a lot of discussion, a lot of continued discussion. And I had a lot of discussions with a few select other people to try to figure out what to do next, because I understood what I was doing could be very detrimental to my teenager, but I could not let them continue on the path they were on, because that was even more detrimental to them. So sometimes you do have to ask around. And I only had it be a handful of trusted people, because I didn't want everybody to know this was hugely embarrassing for my teenager. And I understood that, so we didn't want to get everybody involved. But I needed help, because this was outside of my realm of how to continue in a healthy way so that my teenager could heal and so that they wouldn't hate me forever. And we got there. It was a long time. And it about tore my heart out at times, and I'm sure my teenager felt like their heart was being tore out. So it can get to that extreme, and a lot of that, we went back to that phone contract. Because that is something valid. That is something different than just, I'm your parent and I'm taking this away. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I see my camera still doing this. Again, I hope nobody gets seasick. I'll try backing away again. Anyway, lost my train of thought now. It went back to the phone contract because that was something concrete. That was a starting point to say, you violated this contract that we both agreed to. We both signed our name on it, and you violated it. So we're going to start here, and you're going to lose this. And then we had all of the talking. So I went that extreme with one child, and then I have another one that it was like torture to make this child take the cell phone with them. It was like, oh my goodness, this is important in case you need to reach me. Or, maybe they were somewhere where like they were going to need to be picked up. Like, you need to be able to tell me. And wow, you would have thought I was asking them to carry around a tarantula or something. So there is no overall blanket answer, but have things in place and have discussions ready. And have some resources if you need them for if things do get out of hand. But I can tell you that phone contract of all four of mine, and the different personalities and the different phone usage and the different social media usage and all of that, that phone contract was a good first step and a good thing to come back to. I think every one of my teens has lost their phone at some point from a breach of contract. The times that the phones have been taken away have varied, and there's always been a discussion that this is not just so I can have control over you. And I had one teenager accuse me of that, because I have taken the phone away for stuff other than a breach of contract. And I did have one teenager tell me, I feel like you're just doing this because you can. And I said, I am doing this because this is the only thing that gets your attention. And this is not okay, the things that are happening in the other areas of your life. So to recap, look at the different types of phones out there. Although parental controls have a place, teaching your kids how to be respectful and responsible with their phone is more important. I mean, the parental controls, again, are good. And do check-ins. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're being responsible like they're supposed to be responsible. But have that phone contract so it's really, really clear what is to be expected and what will happen when that is not adhered to. Let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts, any questions, anything you'd like to add. I will help where I can, because I know this is a huge topic and I get asked this one quite a bit.